President Trump has declared the truce with Iran is over as both sides launched further missile strikes for a second day. Iranian state media reported explosions in Bushehr, home to the country's nuclear power plant complex, along with other locations across the coast. Tehran responded with its own strikes against what it said were US bases in Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain and Jordan. The strikes coincided with the funeral ceremonies for Iran's late supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who was killed by American strikes when the war first broke out. From the Iranian capital, our international editor Emma Murphy sends this report.
Escorted by fighter jets, Iran's late supreme leader's final journey was to his birthplace. His burial here in Mashhad, the most holy city in Iran, is also a political statement, acknowledging his life, the nature of his death, and building the image of a martyr taken by an enemy of the state. On a tide of red flags for vengeance, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's body was taken to the shrine of Imam Reza, one of the greatest honours that can be bestowed in Shia Islam. The anger at the nature of his death felt by the Islamic Republic and those to whom Khamenei was the greatest leader is clear in the signs held by those who gathered to honour him. But there are many others in this country who have not turned out on these streets. The nature of his rule, through the strengthening of state and security control, alienating those who seek a different Iran. Absent too, his son and successor Moshtaba, his absence at such a moment in the Republic's history sure to raise questions as to his condition. Security may be used as the justification for his absence, especially as a wave of mutual attacks took place in the hours before the funeral and after. These US strikes on Bandar Abbas to the south, some of many that have taken place across Iran overnight and today, expanding in geography and intensity, including close to Iran's nuclear power plant at Bushehr. Iran had promised swift retaliation and delivered it, attacking US bases in Kuwait, Bahrain and Jordan. They too are expanding the scale of their military response. The incoming and outgoing attacks are fuelled by division between the United States and the Islamic Republic as to who should have control of the Strait of Hormuz.
There's no doubt that the strikes we've seen over the past 24 hours have been significantly greater than anything that we've seen since the ceasefire came into place. And of course, those comments from President Trump about his sense that the memorandum of understanding was over, that the ceasefire was at an end, have really heightened and inflamed this situation. It is worth noting, though, that though there has been inflammatory language and escalatory practice, we haven't yet crossed the point of no return. Neither side has said that they wish to return to full-scale war. And perhaps, although they're baiting each other and pushing each other, they are both aware of just how dangerous that would be for the world, certainly for the world's economies, when you see the way that any activity here spikes oil prices. In terms of the situation internally here in Iran, I think that the Islamic Republic will be very pleased and also relieved about how the week-long commemorations for the late Ayatollah have gone. They will think that what they have projected here is a show of strength on the streets. It has been a way for them to show allies and enemies alike that they have significant presence in this country. Of course, there are many who will not appreciate the scenes that have been seen, who will not wish to be part of them, who will not wish to be associated with them, and will not feel any sense of sadness for the passing of the Ayatollah. In terms of where we go from here with the third Ayatollah, Moshtaba, who took over from his father, one of the big issues that I think will be coming up in the coming days and weeks is the question of where is he? The fact he hasn't been seen during these very significant services is something that Iranians are starting to question. Of course, there is an acceptance that the security situation is incredibly difficult now, but that will be something that I think people will find more and more difficult to deal with when they don't have a figurehead, especially those people who believe so intensely in the Islamic Republic. In terms of where it goes from here, well, it will depend on the coming hours. It will depend on whether or not both sides keep on going with this escalatory tit for tat, but without actually moving it significantly forward. That will be the hope of people in this country, a great many of them. It will be the hope of a great many abroad. But it is also remembering there are those who agitate for war. Although their voice is not necessarily the loudest, it also has power and the potential to destabilise situations.
Well, it seems all forms of diplomacy at the moment have stalled, and we are sliding back into a kind of tit-for-tat exchange of fire between Iran and the United States. What appears to have happened is that Iran has accused the United States of breaking this agreement, this memorandum of understanding, by allowing, Iran claims, some ships to pass through the southern portion of the Straits of Hormuz, the closest to the Omani coast. That resulted in Iran firing on several tankers. It then led to the United States firing in return. Iran has hit back, and now the United States has hit back. But if you listen to what Donald Trump is saying, it's very mixed messages in terms of his comments. I mean, first of all, he previewed the strikes while he was at this summit in Turkey. Then he called the Iranian leaders scum. Then he said that they had called and that they wanted to make a deal. Then he said, I don't know whether they're capable of, worthy of making a deal, and whether they're going to honour the deal. And then he described them as crazy. So none of that really helps the situation to dial down the temperature of this situation. But I think ultimately both sides, it's in neither of their interests to go back to war. Both of them, I think, want to try and find a way through this. Iran wants to try and maintain some sort of control over the Strait of Hormuz. America clearly is sort of pushing the envelope. But if you look at what's happening on the oil markets, actually the price of oil has fallen over the recent hours. And I think that suggests that many observers and analysts think that ultimately this may last for a few days, perhaps even a few weeks, but ultimately that some sort of compromise will be reached.